Hello, my friends and colleagues. So, in the previous video, we learned how to use the radio in case of both pilots' incapacitation. So, to ask help to the traffic controllers. And now we are in the next step. That is, you need to fly the aircraft and land it in an airport with the help of the traffic controllers. What might happen in this unlikely scenario, but you never know, and it's good to be ready. The controller, they might call a pilot rated on the Airbus 320, in this case, that is going to give you the instructions via the radio on which push button, which lever to use, what to do, so to land the aircraft safely on the ground. It sounds impossible, but actually it's not that complicated. And with the help of this video today, I'm gonna show you exactly what to do, what to expect, which kind of information, instructions expect, and which are out of these millions of lever and push buttons that you can have in the cockpit, which ones are the one only that you need to know and you need to use. To do that, we need to divide the actions at the phase in three. Okay, so imagine you are in cruise, so you take care of the pilots, you call on the radio, you say that you are the cabin crew, you are in trouble. And now the first phase is to start the descent, fly towards the airport, and slow down the aircraft at the speed we need to touch down. Then the second step, close to the runway, is the one where we need to extend flap and slats, that are these parts of the wings that goes down in front and the aft part of the wing, and to lower the landing gear. And then the last part is once we are on the runway that we need to slow down and stop the aircraft on the runway and then wait for help. So let's start to see all these three phases and focus only on which are the part of the cockpit that we are really interested in. So, for the first part of the flight, that means descend, flying towards the runway and decelerate, the controls are just in front of you. As you can see, everything is written anyway, don't worry. See, alt 26,000. That means we are flying at 26,000 feet. This knob, that is a little things that you can rotate to adjust the altitude, and then you need to pull to activate the function of descending for the aircraft. The other knob, this one, HDG, that means heading, is like a wheel of the car. You turn it and the aircraft turns. Again, to activate, you need to pull. The third one is for the speed, is this one. It says Mach. We're going to see that a little bit later, because during the descent, we don't touch it, we leave it automatically. Then we need to prepare the aircraft for the configuration later on, and so the lever to extend the flap and the slats, that are these surfaces that extend in front and in the back of the wing, is this one. As you can see, it says flaps, and there are 4 positions, 1, 2, 3, and full. As you can see, it's made of 2 parts, so the top one and another lever below that need to be squeezed in order to move the lever. Otherwise, the lever is stuck in that position. So when the controller is going to tell you, set flap at 1, you take this lever, you squeeze the lower part, and you move the lever at position 1. For the gear down, this is when they're going to tell you to put the gear down, the lever is just in front of you. It's here, it says up and down. It has a shape of the gear, actually, with the wheel. You need to pull a little bit up and then down, because if you pull it just down straight away, it's stuck for safety purposes. So you pull up a little bit and you put it down. Then the last part is actually the landing. Now the aircraft is going to land automatically, but we need to tell him that we want to do that. In order to do this, if you go back to the main panel of the autopilot, that is the one in front of you, you see there is a little button with the word APR, that means approach. So we want to do that the aircraft do the approach. So when the controller is going to tell you push approach button, is this one, you push it, becomes green, we're going to see that later. It means the aircraft is going to land automatically. But there are few actions that we need to do in order to stop the aircraft to the runway. first of all, at the touchdown, so as soon as we feel the aircraft on the runway, we need to grab the thrust lever and, of course, pull it back to the idle position so that we cut the power of the engine. And then we need to brake. Now, the aircraft can brake automatically, and after that, we can set up the parking brake. Now, to tell the aircraft that we want to brake automatically, if you go back again in front of you, on top of the landing gear lever, you have the clock, and then you have these other three push buttons. Say auto brake, it says. You need to push the first button that says low, that's enough. But as you can see in this computer simulator, it doesn't really work properly. See that if I push, there is this on blue. In the real aircraft, once you push this blue on, stay on. That means it's gonna brake. So that means that when the aircraft is on the runway and you have put the thrust lever to idle, then the aircraft is gonna slow down by himself. So when you see the aircraft at a very, very low speed, or completely stop, or almost completely stop, you go down here at the beginning of this console, when there is this level, it says parking brake. You see, you need to pull it and turn it, and the aircraft is gonna be definitely stop on the runway. Now we're gonna put it back to off, otherwise the aircraft, once land, it's gonna really brake immediately. So let's recap, okay, because that is a very moment where we need to act quickly. So when the aircraft touch down, thrust lever to idle, we leave the aircraft slow down by itself because now that we are in cruise, at some point the controller is going to tell you, push this auto brake button. We have done that. We expect to see this on light blue. The aircraft so is going to touch down, thrust idle, the lever at idle, slow down. When it's almost stop, you put this parking brake lever to on. Okay? So now, let's assume that the controller is going to tell you, okay, now descend to 10,000 feet. So how do we do that? We go up here, alt 26,000, and we set these numbers to 10,000. Okay? And then, as I told you, you need to take this knob and pull it towards you a little bit. Let's assume that we have done that. And in fact, you're going to see the aircraft at some point. See, with this number, this is the altitude of the aircraft, we are actually going down. Now, because the navigation is already planned in the computer of the aircraft is going to go directly to the runway that we have selected to land. So most probably, the controller is never going to tell you to turn the aircraft in any direction. But let's say, for practice and to learn, that the controller at some point is going to tell you, okay, now I need to turn left on heading 090. How do we do that? As I told you, here there is this knob with the heading. So first of all, we need to pull it. And now we see numbers. See? Now we turn this knob towards 090. And the aircraft, don't worry, is gonna turn to the heading 090. And then the controller is gonna look at you in his radar, so he knows where you are going, he knows where are you descending, which altitude, and he knows your speed. So it's gonna tell you everything you need to know to continue the flight, okay? So now let's assume that at some point they're gonna tell you, okay, now you are descended to 3,000 feet. So again, we take this knob, we turn it to the left until we see 3,000. And now, this is the altitude. The aircraft is going to descend, level at 3,000 feet, and we are now flying inbound the direction that the controller wanted to do. At some point, they might tell, okay, now you need to turn right on heading 110. Again, we take this knob, we turn it to 110, and don't worry, the aircraft is going to do exactly what you are telling. Descending 3,000 feet on heading 110. And getting closer and closer to the runway, but you don't need to know, the aircraft, the controller is going to control you and keep giving you information, instructions to what to do. Now, unaccelerate the video, otherwise it's gonna take too long. And we're gonna get closer to the runway, where at some point we're gonna start to slow down, set the flap, the gear, and getting ready for the approach. Okay, now to make it a bit shorter and realistic, the controller might tell you now turn right on ending 120. Again, we take this knob, we turn a little bit until we see 120, and the aircraft turn and we go there. And again, accelerate the flight so we get closer to the runway. Okay, so we are getting closer to the moment where we are actually starting the approach. I remind you that the controller already have told you to push the push button of the auto brake, this one, and so we can expect to see that on light blue. Now we cannot see it, but let's assume that is light is blue. And now they're gonna look at now push the approach button. That is this up on this console. We push this button, and as you can see, the line becomes green. The light is green. It means that the aircraft now, when is the right moment, is gonna align by itself to the runway, and it's gonna also start to descend at the right angle. And now, of course, the controller might start to tell you, okay, now we need to reduce the speed. Reduce the speed at 210 knots, or wherever number is going to tell you. What do we do? How do we do that? We pull the knob of the speed, as we have done already with the heading, and now we can actually see numbers again. So we just turn it until we see 210. And the aircraft is going to slow down all by itself to this speed. Okay? And now the aircraft is going to slow down. At some point, the controller is going to ask you to set the flap at position 1. When and only when it's going to tell you to do it, what do? We go down here. So now let's say you say, okay, now set flap at 1. So we grab this lever, we squeeze the lower part, and we put the flap in position 1. Okay? And now, again, this is together with the speed, step by step. Now, at some point, it's going to tell you, okay, now reduce speed to 180 knot. Again, we reduce this number, the knob, at 180. The aircraft continue to slow down. And then, again, at some point, when is the right moment that they know it, because there is a pilot in the tower together with the controller, it's going to look at now set the flap at 2. So we go here, again, we squeeze the lower part of the lever, and we put the flap at position 2. Okay? We continue our flight. We are getting actually closer and closer to the runway in Fiumicino. The airport in Fiumicino is somewhere here. This is Bolsena Lake, or Bracciano. No, this is Bracciano Lake, sorry. This is Bracciano Lake, this is Bracciano City. And slowly, we are getting closer. And the aircraft shortly is going to engage the lateral navigation to be aligned perfectly to the runway by himself. So there's not much, nothing we can do at this moment. Okay? Okay, now the aircraft is turning towards the runway because the aircraft has aligned everything to the runway. We don't need to do anything. And now we trust the system, and but don't worry. And we continue now straight towards the runway that is far away. See, it's actually here, you see, this is the runway, and we are actually landing there, and we are at some point, when it's the right moment, the aircraft is going to also start to descend automatically, following the right glide path. Now the controller might tell you to keep reducing speed to 140 knots. So we take the knob, we turn it to 140, And now the aircraft, you should feel that the aircraft is put the nose down because we are starting the final descent towards the runway. Now we cannot see it, but it's starting the descent. You might see this part, that is the altimeter, showing that the aircraft is going down towards the runway, perfectly aligned to the runway. You see, this is the runway, and now we are actually, slowly, we are in a descent phase. Okay? So now, at some point, the controller might tell you to set the landing gear down. So as I told you, we grab the lever and we pull it first up and then go down. Now the gear, as you can see, is going down. Then the controller is going to request us to set the flaps at position 3. So again, we go down here. We set the flap at position 3. And then the last speed, they're going to say, okay, now set the speed at 125 or whatever they want to put. Okay? And then they're going to tell you, now set the flap at position full. Again, the last position is at full. And now there's nothing remaining to do. We can just enjoy the last part of the flight. The aircraft is flying towards the runway. Is descending also. We are getting lower and lower towards the runway. So now let's recap the actions that we need to do once the aircraft is on the runway. I remind you, this push button is showing a blue on blue in reality. So just before we, just when we are just touching down, we need to grab the thrust lever, both of them, and just move to the towards you, okay, this, and wait until the aircraft is gonna touch down, stay on the runway, it's gonna slow down by itself, and when we are completely stop or almost stop, we grab this lever and we put it to the right, up and right. So, almost there, we are very, very close to the runway, as you can see. The aircraft is perfectly aligned with the runway, is following its descent by itself, don't worry. Therefore, now you might be taking one of the two seats. Keep your hand on the both thrust lever so that you can wait the moment where the aircraft is touching down, just to reduce both thrust lever to the minimum. We are really, really almost there. Here we go. See, here we can see the pilots, but actually you are the pilots today, and tomorrow you're going to be very famous in the newspapers and in all the socials, because you saved all the life of your passengers and also yours, of course. Okay? So we are very, very close to the runway now. We're going to see the runway in a moment through the windows. So we are ready with your hand on the thrust lever. See, okay, this is the runway. It's coming. It's almost there. The aircraft is gonna touch down in a second. Okay, boom, now we set the thrust lever to minimum. The aircraft is touching down and is gonna slow down by itself at a certain rate that we don't need to know. It's gonna slow down slowly, okay, and keep the aircraft. The aircraft is gonna stay on the center line. Don't worry, the autopilot is still engaged. All the automation are working for you, and the aircraft is gonna slow down Okay, now we need to just stay there. See now, okay, it's lowering the nose now, but I guess it's gonna do it earlier. In the real aircraft, see the speed is still is going down, down, down. And at some point, when we see that the aircraft is literally almost stopped on the runway, what do? We go here and we set the parking brake, so on. And now the aircraft is actually stopped on the runway. And now, don't worry, somebody is gonna come with the stairs and everything to help you to shut down the engines and save everybody. So, do you think you can do that? I'm pretty sure you can do it. As you can see, it's not very, very difficult. I mean, this is the bare minimum, of course, to land the aircraft. There's much more in normal operations. This is not what we do exactly. We do much more to be more safe. But these are at least the minimum actions. If the controller is going to tell you to do more, try to do your best. Try to set up other lever, other push button if you can find it. But at least now you know what to do. And yeah, best of luck. Ciao.